you can listen to us for half a month consecutively.
Hello, everyone. What Steven's talking about is after 365 episodes, there's enough hours or seconds or whatever of the podcast that you can listen to the podcast nonstop for 15 days.
Yep.
It's ridiculous. That's a little crazy to think about.
I challenge somebody.
Wow. What's the longest someone's ever stayed up before? Like, what's the world record?
I don't know. Probably. Well, I bet you it's actually like months. For people who have insomnia.
Hmm. 'Cause I know
But it probably depends on how you define rest, because I'm sure those people just go into like a state where they're awake but not.
yeah, comatose state.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's sleep. There's like a certain stage in sleep that like detoxifies your brain or something like that. And you will die if you don't sleep.
The longest time a human has gone without sleep is 11 days and 25 minutes in 1963.
That sounds awful.
Dude, I've done like 30 hours before and I feel horrible.
Yeah. About 26 hours is like my limit. I know that because every November.
Oh, that's right, Emmett. One MEP a day for a year. We're finally there.
Oh, who said that?
Emmett Naughton.
Oh, why can't I see chat? Ah! I had it on top chat and not live chat? What the hell
Actually, I don't think that's the recommended amount. I think that that's the CDC's limit is one MEP a day.
one MEP a day. If you do 2 MEPs a day, it's actually against the Geneva Convention.
Your IQ, we can't guarantee what'll happen to it.
Yeah.
The Geneva, it's a war crime.
War crime.
What is it? It's not a war crime the first time.
Yeah. Guantanamo Bay, they actually have us on loop.
Oh, jeez. I have heard that Metallica has been used for torture before, actually.
Really? Was it the what's that? Saint
Saint Anger. Well, I mean,
Saint
that was
Anger?
Metallica just torturing everyone.
Yeah. But is that the album they use?
I don't know. An OSHA violation. That's right, Metacolin.
OSHA violation. Don't walk under that ladder while listening to the MEP. I do like looking at our podcast stats every so often, and you can tell when school goes into, like, college goes back into session.
Yeah, it bounces all over the
Well,
place.
it's what locations, because it seems that like, and it's certain it's the educational podcast episodes get hits.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I do find it very interesting.
I mean, we found that human beings are creatures of ritual and habit, and if you disrupt the habit, it disrupts a lot of things. And so when COVID hit, our listener base just was destroyed because people were not commuting, and the whole going to school versus not going to school, I'm sure, has a massive effect on it. Well, not massive for the student population, student aged listeners and whatnot. So,
oh yeah, like when COVID hit, that first like 3 months was like we basically fifth our listenership.
Yeah.
Which means a lot of people listen to us either at work or on
or
commuting.
to and from. Yeah.
Which is interesting.
I do political podcast at work. That's basically what I've gotten to the point of.
Man, that would just make me way too angry.
Yeah, I feel like it's a way of keeping up with things without having to go to the news. So
Yeah, I
that's
could
kind
see
of
that.
nice.
I could see, depending on the person, it could be a lot less stressful.
The thing about it is with the news, you have to sift through a ton of stuff, and most of the time, someone else has done that for you and then distilled it.
Hmm.
What your job is figuring out if you trust that person or not.
Yeah. So I can see if you trust that person that's doing the podcast, that could help.
Yeah.
You know, I don't. I just listen to music at work. I don't listen to podcasts. And when I go on road trips, it's either music or audiobooks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really listen to podcasts. It's funny that we have a podcast, and I just don't listen to podcasts. Even people like I like to watch on like YouTube and stuff, they will have podcasts, and I'm like, I don't want to listen to you talk about stuff for an hour. I don't like listening to myself talk to it for an hour about stuff.
It's funny because I basically never listen to tech podcast. I listen to religious or political.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I listen like I should probably listen to tech podcasts and not listen to like the highly inflammatory ones, but those are the ones I go for.
No, it makes sense though. Like you live and breathe tech so much, so it's all, that's like why I work on cars so much. Is like it's just so different, and it gets your mind off of work stuff.
Like my daily life has nothing to do with politics, so it's nice to have that because like I could listen to tech or to my industry podcasts and things like that, but I kind of don't want to because I'm in it, you know.
Yeah. I do I do listen to a lot of when it's audiobooks, it's mostly sci-fi. I did listen to the Odyssey. Is that what it is?
What, the Iliad and the
Yeah.
Odyssey?
God, that took forever. I think that took me like a year and a half to get through.
Pretty brutal.
Yeah. I actually kind of regret this. Regret that. I wish I listened to other things. Because it was like the unabridged one too. It's just a different writing style.
It's poetry.
Yeah. It's a different writing style, and it's a different way of explaining what's going on. So it's very verbose. Which makes sense.
And flowery.
Yeah, and flowery for it. So it makes a lot of sense. I do kind of regret it because I was like, I basically let like my entire backlog got all screwed up because I was like, oh yeah, I'll listen to this, and I didn't realize how long it would take for me to get through that.
Emmett, War and Peace in all forms is a rough ride.
I've never actually even cracked that book at all, even like an abridged version.
It's dense and it's long.
Okay.
Like it's one of those books where you measure it in inches.
Oh, that was I know this is a hot topic since the video game came out, but I remember when you were a kid and Harry Potter was the thing to read. Which was the book that got ridiculous? Like the fourth book? Thickness-wise.
The fourth book is when it started turning like super evil.
Well, I'm not talking about the content. I'm talking about the length.
The fourth book. Yeah, the fourth book was like twice the size of the third.
Yeah, because I remember the first book was like that, and the second book was a little bit longer, and the third book was just only a little bit longer, and then the fourth book came out.
Fourth book is like blah.
And it was like that, and I'm like, I ain't reading
yeah.
that shit.
Yeah.
Also, I was starting to be like aged out of like fantasy books aren't really my jam.
I started Harry Potter right before I left for college and
That's
just
quite late
hammered
then.
through it. Oh yeah, yeah. Like I hadn't even touched Harry Potter, and I freaking love it now.
Huh.
Lauren and I have basically a tradition, ritual more like we watch all the Harry Potter movies between Thanksgiving and Christmas,
Hmm.
which there's 8 of them. So
I'd rather do that with Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings was great. I love the special editions of Lord of the Rings for each movie is like 4 or 5 hours long.
Yeah, they're 4 or 5 hours long.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's so great. It's amazing.
The I did finally get through. Chris Kraft and I were watching this movie actually. The Hobbit movies. Because I watched
Oh.
the first one in theater on Tuesday release at midnight.
Mhm.
Worst fucking decision ever.
Oh, it was awful.
Actually, that I was okay with that movie until the end. Where, spoiler alert, like the Eagles come and save them all from intimate doom. And I didn't like when that happened in the original trilogy. And that happened again. And I'm like, fuck this shit. And I didn't watch the other two.
Well, then you probably don't like the end of The Hobbit because it happens again, basically.
Yeah, actually, yeah. I finished. I actually watched second and third movie, and I'm like, I'm glad I did not go to the theaters to watch these movies.
They're so awful.
And they got like the writing is good, and like the acting is good. The special effects is great. It's just the plot is just terrible.
In the second movie, Smaug is awesome, but then like certain parts of the battle where they're like floating on liquid gold, it looks like a high school
Okay, you're
like,
right. That part did
animation
look,
studio did it. Like
you're
that part,
right.
so awful.
You're right. That part did look bad, but like Smog
Unreal
looks
bad.
great. Like
Smaug is awesome.
the creatures
and
look
they,
so good.
yeah, and they had Benedict Cumberbatch do it, and they actually like they motion captured his face
I
and
forgot about
applied
that.
it to the dragon, and like it's great because it all works out super well. Like I think Smaug they did a good job on Smaug, but yeah, the action sequences are almost all stupid in all 3 movies.
Yeah, I don't regret watch. I'm glad I didn't watch them in theaters because I would have
Yeah.
regretted it. I'm okay watching it on like my computer. You're talking about Cumberbatch doing facial for
The Desolation of Smaug.
yeah. So there was I'm gonna find it now so I can share it with y'all. There is a video of God. It's like a Godzilla side character, but it's like a monster. Okay. And
They did motion capture for it. or
no, no,
something?
no, no, no. This is like rubber suit Godzilla.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay. But one of the actors, so like they emote, and then like they dub it over, right, with like the
Yeah.
roars and stuff. But so they emote, so like the actors have cues and that kind of stuff. So she does like the most like cutest like roar ever. She goes, it's like it's so freaking funny. Like, I gotta find this.
I'm gonna get a drink.
Or actress, I should say. Here, I'm gonna put this in chat, everyone. This is so freaking good. I put the link in chat, Steven.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so, like, you look at this creature that's like is gonna like have a sonic boom of a roar.
What the hell?
Have you seen the in the similar vein? Have you seen the clips of Chewbacca actually talking?
No.
Yeah, so like the
I feel like I shouldn't see that.
dude, it will change how you think of Chewbacca. Put the link back. This link in chat. But Chewbacca, so he again would say his lines so other people like Han could respond to Chewbacca, and then they would dub over the roars.
Action.
That old man's mad.
You said it, Chewie. Boy, where did you dig up that old fossil?
Ben is a great man.
Yeah, great at getting us into trouble.
I didn't hear you give any ideas.
That old man's mad.
You said it, Chewie. Boy, where did you dig up that old...
That old man's mad.
Well, you said it, Chewie.
There's a part, I don't remember which Star Wars it is, where you see Chewbacca open his mouth, and he does a pretty wide mouth opening, and you can just see that it's straight up rubber inside, and they cut a little slit so he can talk out of the mouth, and it looks terrible. It looks absolutely awful.
Oh, there's a Darth Vader actor. So that like a
Oh
performed-
yeah, the actual actor.
Yeah.
What was funny was he didn't know that he was going to be overdubbed, so he thought he was Vader's voice in all of New Hope, and so he was like really hamming it up the entire time. Apparently, that actor was pretty pissed when he found out that he wasn't actually Vader.
I guess I would be too.
Especially if you didn't tell me, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, if I knew, like, I wonder if Chewbacca was that way too. Then
I
that
bet you he
voice
would've
does
known.
not fit
No.
Chewbacca's body structure, though.
No.
It's like kind English gentleman.
Here you go.
Here you go. What?
Yeah, I put the real voice of Vader
Where is it?
in the live stream chat,
Huh?
like
Anyone
around
else?
11 seconds.
No, I don't have the link. The link didn't show up for me.
All right, well, we'll send it to you separately then. I'll put it in squad chat. Squad cat.
Finding the right voice for Darth Vader was another challenge.
And action!
Lucas had never intended to use the on-set
Yeah,
vocal
he was
performance of
huge.
David Prowse.
Start tearing this ship apart piece by piece until you find those tapes. Find the passengers of this vessel. I want them alive!
I can still hear David Prowse's accent in the Darth Vader mask muffled because he would do the real dialogue. He's trying to curse Carrie Fisher or something.
Sent you.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm a member of the Imperial Senate on a diplomatic
You
mission.
are part of the Rebel Alliance and a traitor. Take her away.
It was hilarious and terrifying at the same time because we didn't know what Darth sounded like. That was the first time we heard him. We're like, is that it? Is it going to be some Scottish guy or what is this?
Prowse's voice would later be replaced with a more menacing performance, provided by classically trained stage and film actor
Can everyone get
James
that
Earl Jones.
link I just posted?
George had hired
Oh, I'm
David
sorry.
Prowse, but he
Don't go
said
to
he
that
wanted a
link.
so-called
It's a
darker
stupid,
voice,
like, clickbait.
and not in terms of
No, the link I
estimate, but
just
in terms
posted
of,
in the.
Your
timbre.
links aren't going through, by the way.
And the rumor is
Why
that he
are they
thought
not?
of Orson Welles.
Okay, I just wrote the word test. Did that go through?
Yep.
My links are not going through. It's showing them as through on mine.
Probably we have it. People can't post links.
Bet you that's right.
I just played the video anyways for everyone.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess when I post links or someone else try posting a link in the chat. Let's see if we have it disabled.
Community moderation. I don't want to mess with this yet.
Yeah, don't mess with it. I'm just curious. There's a picture of the cast of Star Wars, the main characters, and it's got Carrie Fisher next to the guy who plays Chewbacca, and she barely comes up like halfway up his torso. You know, he's huge.
(7'3). Well, they casted the right person to play Chewbacca. The voice didn't fit, though. I wonder if he knew as well.
I bet he did.
But they typically do that. Like, if then they're going to do an overdub. It's actually kind of the problem with, like, green screen, like, back in the 90s and early aughts, where, like, actors didn't know how to act with nothing there.
Yeah, Chris Craft, no link. So we must have that disabled.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's the weird part. It doesn't say that it didn't take it. It just doesn't display it to everyone.
Yeah, whereas, like, Twitch will tell you, like, hey, you can't post links.
Right. It'll at least warn you, right?
So it just shadow bans your post. That's kind of weird.
Basically.
Yeah, I think Chris Craft is right.
All right, we should probably kick this off.
Yeah, I'm just catching up on work chat.
Okay.
Which is probably like the last thing I need to do before starting
Yeah.
the podcast.
You don't want to get pissed off before it.
No, I'm just catching up. It's not pissy off stuff. Just stuff that I need to start thinking about for tomorrow. Okay. Yeah, let's start. I think there is, Chris Craft, there's like a community moderation thing in YouTube. Very similar to Twitch. It's just we haven't set it up yet because we have like 9 people here. If we had 900, or 90, actually. I wouldn't say even 90. We probably would have to have someone that was a moderator in some form or fashion. Should I bring up the new project car?
Why not?
I guess buying it is more than 50% of the way there, right?
There you go.
I'll mention it if we need time. So it'll be at, like, near the end.
That's fine.
Welcome to the Macrofab Engineering Podcast, a weekly show about all things engineering projects, DIY, manufacturing, industry news, and designing for laser cutting. We're your hosts, electrical engineers Parker Dillman.
And Stephen Craig.
And this is episode 366. I don't know why I did it that way. I was bored.
Just
you do
having
it
fun with
365 times. You gotta spice it up sometimes.
We did come to the realization just before the podcast that you can now listen to an episode a day for an entire year and not hit the same content.
We decided that was slightly, like, it's not too bad of a war crime, so it's not in the Geneva Convention yet.
Yet. Yeah, give it a little bit longer. Yeah, it actually equates to our episodes are on average about an hour long, so it equates to over 15 consecutive days of listening. So I challenge someone to do that.
And what is it like? If you could stay awake and listen to every single episode, you'll have the world record for being the human that stayed awake the longest.
Yeah, we looked it up before this. The world record is 11 days and 25 minutes.
Poor soul. What are you drinking there? Is that a White Claw?
Hey man, I'm
It's like
I'm dodging the beer right now because of the anti-belly actions I'm trying to take right now.
Is it peppermint flavored?
No, this is one of their lemonade flavors.
Oh, it just looks like a peppermint, stick.
I've lost almost 20 pounds since November, so
Just drinking White Claws.
No, well,
White
no,
Claw
actually,
diet.
not drinking at all. But like, I wanted something recently, and not beer related. So, yeah, it's as you get older, if you drink beer, you get fatter. That's usually how it works, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm taking steps against that. So we got some news that we've been talking about every week, but we'll talk about it again. What's going on, Parker?
Yeah, so one, we completed our move into new MacFab HQ. That's all nice and good. And then number two, May 4th, we're bringing back the MacFab Engineering Meetup, and it will be at new HQ as well. Details to follow, except it's on May 4th.
And new HQ is like new.
New HQ,
are basically
yes.
just in there now.
Yeah, we shipped, so we moved all our machines over the weekend, and the first board made in our new facility shipped out today. So hats off to the entire team for getting everything up and running into some capacity that we could actually build boards.
Well, and just because of when this podcast releases, when you say the machines moved over the weekend, that means that they were being set up on a Sunday, and you're shipping boards on Tuesday.
On Tuesday, yes.
That's pretty impressive turnaround. But
Yeah.
but at your scale and how much stuff you have to do, you can't afford a full week off.
Yeah, I mean, like I said last week, we built ahead on some orders, But this was
Yeah.
like a new 10-day order, and we got it out on time. So
Don't tell the salespeople that you can build a head like that, because they'll just expect that's the new norm.
I mean, they already do, but whatever.
Yeah, you have to have some headroom in your manufacturing.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. The material for the checker. So we're done with the news, I think, right?
Yeah, May 4th, meet up, go see it. It'll be cool.
So the materials for the checker battery box I talked about last week, which is a laser cut stainless steel box that's going to go into the trunk, so you can put batteries and tools into it. It unfortunately didn't show up on Friday. It got delayed by FedEx. I think FedEx. Anyways, materials showed up on Monday, so I did like a dry fit of all the panels, and everything fit together really well. Like everything kind of just had like a slight friction fit, so it's like perfect for welding TIG. Like there's like the panel gap is like measured in atoms. Because if it was 0, it would just cold weld, right?
Yeah, if it's perfectly 0 and the edges are exactly flat.
Yeah, it would just cold weld together. But it's not that, there's something in there, right?
You have to ring the whole box together. Right?
All 6 panels at the same time.
All the panels, yeah.
So tomorrow is when I'm going to try to start TIGging it. I mean, I've TIGged 306 stainless before, and it TIGs just like steel, or enough like steel where I can do it. That was the whole thing. Like I made it out of stainless, or got it cut out of stainless, so I didn't have to weld aluminum. Now looking back on it, this box is way, way heavier than I ever thought it would be.
How heavy do you think it is?
It's probably 40 pounds, including the lid. So you're thinking a 12-inch by 24-inch by 8-inch rectangle made out of 1/8-inch stainless.
Why'd you go with 1/8 inch? That's pretty hefty.
I don't know. I didn't do any calculations. It just sounded good.
For heft factor.
Yeah, for heft factor. Well, I'm thinking of it like it goes into the trunk, and it is like thin sheet metal in the trunk, but like I didn't want the battery to just like fall out the bottom. So it was more of a like shooting from the hip material wise than in the actual calculation. And also like 1/8 inch is of the thickness of where like I am comfortable welding something like that. Going thinner, I don't have a lot of experience with TIG welding. So
1/8 inches it would be pretty hard to just accidentally punch a hole through it. You'd have to try.
Yeah, you would have to try. So that was also part of the reasoning was like, oh, I've welded actually a lot of stainless 1/8 inch before, so I'm like, I know I can. That's within my realm of skill sets to do, because I'm still like struggling doing sheet metal work on the checker, fixing rust holes in the trunk, which I'm glad I'm doing it there, and not like on a door panel, because I'm assuming basically by the time I'm done with the trunk, I would have gained enough skills to where like I can do like the door skins just fine. We'll see though. I could also still be complete.
How much external body work do you have to do on it?
Very little.
Okay.
Like on that people can see, it's really the corners of the doors. Like the lower, so like if you're looking at the door, the corner farthest away from the hinge at the bottom, where like water likes to collect there in all cars, and that's where you typically see rust. And so it's got a little bit of bubble, and so I hit it with the wire wheel, and the wire wheel just ate right through the sheet metal. So,
do you have to fabricate like a new piece of the corner?
Yeah, I'll just have to cut out a piece of it and then put a new panel
Just
in.
patch it, basically.
Patch it in, yeah. I don't have to make a new skin, I don't think. Let's see once I dig into the doors. So yeah, I'm going to start TIGging it all together, and post pictures on Twitter and in the Slack channel, of course. So yeah, I wish it came over the weekend. 'Cause I actually had time this weekend to like do some welding at night.
That sucks.
That's what happens.
I'm curious, how did you go about designing the like box joints? What was the design criteria for that?
So I wanted everything to kind of interlock together, and I watch a YouTube channel called Super Fast Matt. He's a dude over in California that builds cars and stuff like that. He's like built like a Tesla powered like 1930 something Jaguar. It's a pretty cool build. But all his fabrication, and it's actually how I found out about that company, Send Cut Send. We've talked about them before. Basically, you send them a DXF and they send you laser cut parts. He uses them to basically do all his fabrication work. So he will get stuff lasered and then he welds it together. And he talks about using like finger joints and really like tabs to kind of like hold your structure together so you can tack weld it easy. So basically everything kind of fits together and self-aligns. And then you can tack it together, and now you have your structure that's going to be within whatever tolerance you designed it in. So he's built like suspension arms and that kind of stuff using this method. And I've used this technique in the past, and it's worked out pretty well. But this is like the biggest thing I've ever made because it's like, it's 2 feet long. It's like what would be an American way of saying it? Well, I said feet already, but like it'd be like
a very small fraction of a football field.
Yeah, I was actually calculating out how much of a football field it would be.
150th.
2 300ths.
Two 300th, yeah.
Of a football field.
There we go.
So it's actually quite a big box, and that was actually the good thing is everything just slid together with a slight friction fit, which ended up being perfect. So like that big barbecue that we haven't laser cut out yet, I'm waiting for. I'm working on building my new house basically, and so when that is done, that's when like I'll have space to actually fabricate something that big, because that smoker is like 6 feet long and weighs 800 something pounds. Mm-hmm. Like I just have no place to actually weld that here. At my current place.
You need like a giant fabrication table for that.
Yeah.
It sounds like you need a project for a project to get a project done.
Make a big fabrication table.
Yeah,
because I only have like a 2 foot by 5 foot table.
That's probably like in just enough if that's the only thing on it.
Yeah. Well, right now it's like half of it's like my TIG stuff too, because I don't have a TIG cart.
Yeah.
I need to build a TIG cart.
I've got the one that you got me for my birthday last year right here.
Oh, because that has a cart built into it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it has like a shelf and a upper topper section. So I'm rearranging my basement right now, and once I have a permanent spot for that, my first welding project with that is to actually build a clamp that I can clamp the my bottle to it, so I can integrate my gas right into this cart. Because right now my bottle, I just have to move it by hand and set it wherever I'm welding.
And hopefully
I don't like that, and it's not OSHA approved. Right?
Yeah, hopefully your dog doesn't bump into it or something.
Yeah, and I don't have it chained to a wall or anything like that, so I have to just put it in a safe-ish location in my basement right now. Yeah. But I'd like to have it like strapped to the cart. That would be ideal.
That'd be ideal, yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna weld it up and see how it goes. Oh yeah. Oh, so the fingers, the tabs. Yeah. So what Super Fast Matt recommended, and you actually mentioned that Send Cut Send has like a whole thing on like recommendations on this. I didn't know.
Yeah,
that.
I was looking at their website today, and I noticed that, and I was going to ask you if you followed their recommendation, but it sounds like you went with this other guy.
Yeah. So what I did is I'll draw the like everything to be a touch fit or interference fit. So like clearance is 0, right? So I draw everything that way, and then I go back and I make the tab side, so that the tab part 5 mils smaller.
Okay.
Actually, no. Is it the tab side? No, I do the slot.
You basically
side.
just offset the line by 5.
Actually, I take that. It's actually the slot side. I make it 5 mils off.
Okay. 5 mils bigger, basically.
Yeah, 5 mils bigger, so it won't technically don't touch, and that seems to be just enough clearance with whatever lasers Sencut-Sen uses to make it work fine. I don't know what I need to see what Sencut-Sen recommends, but I'm gonna bet you it's in that ballpark.
I just glanced at it today. I think they recommend a 10 thou gap all around, so you're half that.
Okay.
Which, if it works for you, it works for you. So I've run into this before with lasers. One of the things about them is that it depends on the laser itself, but you can get a rough edge, and a lot of places when they ship you stuff that's acceptable, you have to work that out with them. So perhaps that's why Sencut-Sen is suggesting 10 thou. That might be a CYA number. I mean, 10 thou's already pretty low. You're talking about 5 thou. That's effectively a friction fit when you talk about the extra laser. I mean, the edge isn't necessarily perfect. That's probably why it's frictiony.
Yeah, it actually works great because I've always done 5 thou or 5 mils, and always been worked out really well for me. So let's keep this topic of car stuff real quick. I did think about doing this topic at the end, but my printer just finished the first part I've ever made for my next project car.
Oh, what is it?
So my next project car is I picked it up this weekend. It's a 2021. So it's honestly brand new. It's got like 1,000 miles on it. Chevy Express 4500, which if you don't know what that is, it's a van, and the 4500 Express is like a Chevy van. 4500 means it's a 1.5 ton chassis. It's a beefy chassis underneath this van. So like the front part looks like a normal van, and then it's got like a big old FedEx box in the back. So
It's like a U-Haul.
Yeah, it's basically a U-Haul.
Yeah, a big monster box truck. Because Parker needs another car to work on, but this project is to haul around your other cars.
That's actually exactly what it is.
Parker just pulled off a part off of his 3D printer. What is it? Let me describe it. It's a flat rectangular piece with a big circle cut in the middle.
Yeah, so the no one really makes, so these are Chevy Expresses and like the GMC equivalent, which I think is like a Savannah or something like that, or it's not Sierra. They're work vehicles, okay? So no one really makes like aftermarket performance parts for these. They make aftermarket work parts. So one of the things I want to do is I want to turn it into a tow rig so I can haul my Jeeps around and that kind of stuff. So, and also I want to camp in it. So I have a box I'm going to convert to an RV. And so I can camp in it, tow my Jeeps around, all the fun stuff. And so one thing I want to
drive your Jeep to the destination so you can drive your Jeep.
Yes. That's exactly what I want to do. It's not as crazy. A lot of people do this.
Yeah, sure. It also acts as a unique sleeping situation for you. I mean, you're going to deck out the box part of it to be able to sleep in it.
Yes, yeah. It's going to have, like, bunks in it, and then, like, a kitchen, and then, like, a place to, like, pee and poop. So this is what I printed I was getting to it is no one makes performance parts. So, like, most people would, let's say if you had a truck, and you wanted to add an aftermarket gauge. you would go to one of the big aftermarket people and be like, I need a gauge pod that fits my truck, and a pod is basically a thing that a gauge goes into, and you could buy one. And a lot of like trucks have like ones that just replace, like you can get one that's like integrated into like a piece of your dash, so it like looks OEM. No one makes anything like that for a work truck, and so in the dash of the Chevy Express, there's a lot of inserts where like you can put like switches, and this is a work truck, so like there's like no options besides like air conditioning and a radio, and so like all of them are like blank. So
Nice.
I pulled them out and I measured one up, and I made a gauge, so 52 millimeter, or I think it's like 2.5 inches, or 2 1/8 or something like that. It's 52 millimeters. Gauge adapter for the truck, and so it's got. I'm gonna have to tweak these. These are I printed like because it was like it has like tabs that flex,
Clip in fingers.
that clip in, and so I'm gonna have to tweak that. I went off the measurements off the original part that's injection molded ABS. That's not gonna work with polycarbonate. I'm gonna have to tweak those numbers to make it work eventually. It will work. I don't know how long it will work for. At least it will clip in once. I don't know if it'll ever clip in a second time if I have to remove it.
But that's all you really need, right?
Yeah, I mean, you just print another one, right?
Well, I mean, how often are you going to be pulling that thing in and out?
Exactly. Goes in once. So I printed it up. I'll post pictures. So you can see like the little fingers right here.
Oh, yeah,
I'll post the pictures. It's like most people listen to our audio and trying to visualize something, I guess, to them.
Yeah, little tab fingers that clip into something and hold it
Yeah,
in
little
place.
plastic
That's all
on the
it is.
dash. So we'll see how well this works out. I'm going to bet you it doesn't work the first try because it's a compliance plastic fitting, and those never work the first try when you try to 3D print them. So
3D printing is a bit, it's a bit how you doing when it comes to like flexing and getting it to flex in the same way that injection molded does. Like it just doesn't play by the same rules.
yeah, it plays by different rules, and I'm using a completely different plastic. I'm using polycarbonate, not ABS.
Yeah.
Which I found out that most people have moved away from printing ABS now. That was like when I started 3D printing, it was either PLA or ABS plastic. But apparently ABS plastic like off gases something like obscenely toxic, so you don't want it near your 3D printer or near you when it's 3D printing.
So is just PLA the weapon of choice?
No,
now?
they use like PETG now. Is like
Oh.
the
So-
what do you
so,
say, weapon of choice?
Yeah. Pet G, isn't that like a 2-liter bottle material?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. Well,
so I do
Thermoplastics,
polycarbonate
right?
because I do like a lot of fixturing and bracketry and stuff. So this is going to be way overkill for something to hold a little tiny gauge. And actually, I think I have a gauge on my other bench. And of course, it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit.
All right, I already got to reprint another one.
Yeah. Well,
It needs to be 53 millimeters.
it probably does because I think I just did 52 and I forgot about the extrusion factor I had to put into there. Oh well. At least I can
Yep.
mess with the clip part.
Yeah, I was about to say you've already said it's probably going to need another rev.
Yeah. But yeah, it's cool. This is the first part for that project.
Nice.
It's weird. I started making like I always have this like running list of like everything I need to do for my project cars. Like the red Jeep is virtually done. It has like one, maybe two things that are like nice to haves in the future. If I'm like, you know, maybe like I can't work on anything else, I will go do those things now on this. Because like I drive that car every day.
Yeah.
The wagon, it's got a decent list, but it's in a good spot in terms of like I drive it also every day.
It's functional.
It's functional really well. I actually think that's my favorite car to drive because it's like the term is literally called a shit box. It's a shit box because it's like it's beat up. You can just drive it. You don't have to care about it. You change the oil in it and make sure the air, like it has gas in the tank, and it just keeps going. And then the checker is like a million miles long list, right? And
that one's got years on it.
I'm hoping not years, but yes, it's going to be quite a while.
It's been years so far.
I didn't start it until last fall.
I think you started when you bought it.
I didn't really. I did work on it a little bit, but I started working on the other two Jeeps.
Right.
So it really was in hiatus for like 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Whereas now, so I did the same thing. Even before I even bought this box truck, I was like building the list and stuff. It's really weird not having like mechanical things, like making sure like having to do a suspension rebuild or ball joints or like harmonic balancer replacements. Like,
no, you bought a thing that works.
yeah, it just works. Like,
yeah,
it's weird because this is the first time I've ever. No, this is like the first time I've ever owned a new. It's honestly a new car or a new truck.
We were kind of joking about it earlier because our rule on the podcast is we don't talk about something on an episode unless we're already 50% or further along, complete with the project, and just purchasing this car counts as 50%.
Yeah,
for
it's really weird to think about
project.
that way, but yeah, it's like it's a truck. It has wheels that spin. It has a warranty from the factory. And it already has
1,000 miles on it.
And it already has a box on the back. So I'm like, yeah, it's already technically like. So I had to you had to get insurance for your cars. And so this is an interesting story. And so it's a 4,500. If you go to any insurance company out there and do their online like give me a quote thing, a Chevy Express 4,500 doesn't exist in their platform. Because it's considered basically it's either an RV or a commercial vehicle at that point. Like they either turn those things into box trucks or RVs. And so I had to go and get a like special commercial license for it. Not license, commercial insurance for it.
Like your regular driver's license is
my
$25.
regular driver's license, at least here in Texas. Well, my Texas
you don't
driver's
need a
license,
CDL for it.
I don't need a CDL for it because it's under the weight limit, and I don't use it for commercial purposes. Like it is going to be for.
This is the car that spans that gap between your regular driver and commercial. Like it's that's why it's like effectively a U-Haul.
Yeah, it's effectively a U-Haul. I did joke with the insurance person because commercial insurance costs more. Even like I got a special plan that's basically like it's commercial, but it's not commercial because I'm not going to use it. I don't have a dot number for it. And it's only going to be me driving it. So that's the whole thing with commercial insurance is it could be you have to kind of insure everyone in your company that's going to drive it, and that jacks your rate way up. So my rate for it wasn't too bad. It ended up being $1,000 basically a year, which isn't terrible. But when you look at it as I insure all my other vehicles for that same amount.
Yeah.
I was like,
and at the same time, if you look at it, this isn't a daily driver. This is
it sits in the driveway.
Specialty vehicle for you.
Yeah. So I was joking with the insurance person. I'm like, so like when I convert it to an RV, I can insure it as an RV and the rate will go way down. But I was like, so what does that entail? Like, can I just like toss a cot in the back and it counts as an RV? And the guy's like, no. He did not want to joke around. Apparently, when I convert it, I have to send pictures and they have to approve that it is now an RV.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I have to have like someone come out and look at it. Which is not
Just
too
make
big
it
a deal.
look nice
It's
in
like,
there. Put drapes up and
yeah,
make a
I'm gonna
nice
put windows
bed
in it.
there.
It's gonna have air conditioning in the box.
Yeah.
Probably a heater, beds, a kitchen. You know, all the stuff that you need to enjoy the great outdoors.
I love the fact that you could, well, not you. Don't take this as an offense. A normal person could buy an RV, or Parker could buy a box truck and convert it into an RV.
So
I kind of love that.
That's actually where's the problem. RVs, the boxes on RVs are really, really heavy. Because there's a lot of sound, like deadening and stuff. Because they're designed to be more of a home on wheels. So it's supposed to be like quiet and comfortable. So the suspension's really soft. And because of all that stuff, your tow rating, your gross combined weight rating gets eaten up by all that other stuff, and then that combined number is lower because your suspension is softer. Whereas you flip it around, you look at a commercial box truck, and sure, I'm going to put stuff in the box, but it's like, I don't care if it's loud in the box. It's going more of car camping instead of RVing. Like, I'm using it as a base camp, effectively, right?
And that's
so,
just the thing. It's more camping than it is.
Yeah,
living.
it's going to be way more. It's comfortable camping.
Yeah.
Than actually RVing. And also because of that, it's like it has a commercial level like suspension, so it's rigid. So you get a much higher gross combined weight rating, and so now instead of now towing 4,000, 5,000 pounds, you can tow 10,000 pounds, and that it only sounds like 5,000 pounds, but when your Jeep weighs 4,000 and a trailer weighs 1,000 something pounds, like an aluminum trailer is like 1,700, and so like a car trailer, and so it's like that's a really expensive aluminum lightweight trailer. You're already past that 5,000 limit, and so it's like, okay, what's your options for off-shelf RVs? You're kind of looking at basically buying a semi-truck that's been converted called a toddler home. And those are like starts at like 120K. Like there's like no other option, like even used ones. And then you're also getting into like big rig diesel stuff, which is like I had to go buy a whole new set of tools. Like everything I had to get new tools just for them to work on it.
It's just a different paradigm.
Yeah, just a completely different paradigm. And then there's one other option, and it's what's called a Super Class C, which is honestly what I'm building. They're built on like a Chevy Express 4500 platform, but the shortest Super C you can get is like a 28-footer RV, which is like ends up being like 30 something feet long because like they measure like the box length, right? This is an 18-foot box, which makes the truck like 24-ish feet long, which isn't terrible. I wanted to keep it to like 20 feet. And actually, what happened was I got a really good deal on an 18-foot box instead of a 14-foot box. And that's just how it worked out. So basically, I'm going to make a Super Class C truck camper thing.
It checks all the boxes you were looking for.
Yes, and like it hit the right price point. It's something that I can just go use right away. All that good. It got all the good stuff. So, funny enough is like me just 3D printing this thing was just kind of like something I want to do just to start playing around with, actually learning how to do like compliance 3D printing finger bendy things.
Yeah.
What's the actual term for it? Compliance? What's it called? We talked about this on the podcast before. There's a special name for this.
Like snap fit fingers?
Yeah, there's a special name for it.
Ugh, I don't remember. It's not living hinge. That's something.
Living Hinge
Something
is
different.
closer to it though.
I
Why
don't
can't?
remember.
Because didn't AVE have a thing about this too?
Oh gosh, with AVE he probably does. He's got a bunch of
But
different.
he did
random
talk
stuff.
about this.
Yeah.
No, I can't remember anymore.
You know that I wouldn't be surprised if this exists. I haven't seen it, but a design guide for hinges or plastic injection molding connections like that would be really awesome. Even if it was just like a couple page white paper of just ideas of designs. I would love to see that. If anyone knows of that, shoot me a link.
So, the first thing is to get actually a tow hitch put on it.
Yeah, you're
And
trying
then-
to do that this weekend, right?
I'm going to try to. Because then basically I get that set up and then I can weigh it. And then figure out where my starting point is of like the weight. So figure out basically how much
So
I
then
can-
you can figure out how much crap you can haul around.
Well, no, that's the thing is like I want to be able to tow 10,000 pounds including the trailer. And so the oh, thank you, Metacolin. It's called compliant mechanisms. I was I knew compliant was part of it. So like I want to tow 10,000 pounds, and then the gross combined weight rating of this whole setup of this truck is 20,000 pounds. So you take 20,000 minus 10,000, you got 10,000 left. So the entire truck and everything in it can't weigh more than 10,000 pounds. Because if you go over that, the dot will not be very happy with you when you get pulled over and you have to go on a scale.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, because there's a lot of basically once you get this big, you can basically be audited on the road. They just tell you to pull over into the weight scale.
Right.
So it's also good to know like you're within the safety ratings of the manufacturer, right? The manufacturer is saying 20,000 pounds. You gotta make sure you're in there, and
Yeah, you don't want that to be a gray zone area.
no, you don't. I'm for the automotive stuff. I'm very like by the books in terms of like safety rating stuff. I don't like skirting the law in
reasonable.
that regard, especially because that's like it's not just your life on the line. It's like if you're on like a race car, sure, do whatever the hell you want, right? Because you're on a closed course. It's your life on the line, right? But when you're flying down the freeway hauling 20,000 pounds of crap, there could be a school bus full of nuns, right?
That's oddly specific. But yes, there could be. And
There's a lot more at stake than just your life. So it's
right.
good to be thinking about that kind of stuff all the time when you're doing a build like this. Because when you look at like what people build, like and it's called like quote van life unquote builds like this, like half the people have no idea about any of these laws. And it's like scary what people build and do. So that's why I was like, I need a big ass truck because I need to tow. You know, I need something that's going to safely tow my Jeep around. So I'm like, okay, 10,000 pounds is the limit. So like, what truck do I need to get to there? And like, yeah, a like Chevy 1500 pickup truck could probably easily tow that. But then you'd missing out the RV part. So then you put a camper on it, and now you're overweight. And so then you're like, okay, I'll need to get a bigger truck. And just
well, hopefully you can
escalates
be an
out.
example of someone doing it right. You know.
I hope so.
Yeah, because I obviously you'll be talking about it here, and it'll be all over Twitter and everything. So.
Yeah. Oh no, there's a lot of people out there that do it right. It's just a lot of people don't do it right.
Yeah.
And a lot of
Yeah,
people
yeah.
don't really know what they're talking about either about a lot of the stuff. It's like anything
Or
on
what
the-
they're getting into.
Yeah, well, it's like everything with like online forums where like half the people was just it's like Viper 42 saying something, and everyone takes this gossip. and it might be the most completely wrong thing ever.
Yeah. All right, well, that is yet another car and yet another project, but hey, at least this one's
runs and
functional when
drives.
you got it. Yeah,
It runs and
drives when
drives.
you got it.
And stops.
You don't have to do anything to make it work.
It has a
You just
warranty.
have to do things to make it better.
It has I can take it to a dealership and they fix it for me. On Sunday, I had a minor panic attack about that. That I was like,
that you might not be the one fixing it.
yes.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, Parker, it's not a big deal. Like, everyone does this. I'm like, Parker, you're the weirdo here.
Yep.
And all was okay.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, and I mean you've mentioned also strapping the Jeep and driving it up my way, so yeah, I'm looking forward to see it when it comes up here.
I can't wait. Yeah. I'm just, yeah, okay. Let's move on from this topic. We got another big topic here.
Well, and I'm gonna flip topics around because we were just talking about 3D printing and kind of compliance hinges, and so. A few weeks ago, I designed a 3D printed cable management tool device, little thing for 8020 extruded aluminum, and I printed a few before I even got any of my 8020 in, and so I have some. In fact, I'm gonna hold it up to the camera here for the live stream, and we'll post some pictures of it. But the prints all came out really great, and as soon as I got my 8020 and I tried them out, and I'm excited because they work really fantastic. These little clips, basically, it's got these tabs that hold on to the inner rail of 8020, and basically give you a zip tie location. So my goal was just to make something that was easier than a lot of the other designs I saw out there for cable management. I mean, like if you go on Thingiverse and stuff, there's plenty of designs out there. I don't want to crap on any of them, but they all just seem to be more difficult than I think it needed to be. Like I wanted to make a single piece that was really easy to just connect to your 8020. So this first revision of the piece actually works pretty well. It slides into the rail and gives you a nice little zip tie location. The thing I'm going to have to change about it is it's a bit too tight right now. I kind of overshot things, and it's just too stiff. Once you get it in there, what's nice is you can slide it through the rail of the 8020, and it just sticks in place once you get it there. The problem is getting it into the rail is not the easiest thing. So I'm going to adjust it so it doesn't grip as hard. So effectively what I did was I just designed it tighter than the thickness of the 8020, such that the piece itself has to flex and just grip onto the rail. And I think I gave it, 15 thousandths of flex is what it had to do, something of that sort. And with the PLA I'm printing with, it's too aggressive. So getting it into the rail is difficult because the original intent with this was to be able to push it into the slot of 8020, and then you rotate it, and it kind of just slides into position and holds itself. You can't do that with this prototype. You just can't get it in there and rotate it. It's just too tight. If you slide it in from the end of the 8020, you can, because it's just easier for it to get it to engage with the rails. So I need to make it just basically flex less, which will make it less strong, but it doesn't need that much strength in terms of gripping onto the rails. It just needs enough to hold a zip tie and the cables. So the other thing that I want to do with this is add little spots on it where you can basically put your fingers on it and rotate it. Because I realized once I actually had 8020 in hand, once you've put it into the slot, you have not even an eighth of an inch of material to get your fingers on and rotate it. So you can't do that without hurting your fingers effectively. So I'm going to add, some bulbous little areas that are just big enough that you can get your fingers on it. Or perhaps I'll design a 3D printable tool that you can slide the tool over it and then rotate it and take the tool off, and then maybe even a tool that engages with the zip tie slots and allows you to rotate it into position.
A J-hook kind of thing?
Yeah, something like that. But regardless, the overall shape and everything works great. So effectively all that needs to change is I need to make it less tight. So that's nice. I'll be doing some prints over this I don't know, sometime soon. It's not super critical right this minute, but as soon as I get this done, I'm going to throw it up on Thingiverse for everyone. But the main thing I wanted to talk about, and we mentioned this last week, is that I finally got all of my aluminum extrusions in for my new CNC build that I've been doing, which, for those who don't know, I don't know, 5-6 months ago, something like that, I finally made the call that I was going to redo my CNC game at home and just get rid of my old one and start a whole brand new CNC. And a lot of that was driven by some things at work and the ability I had to use some of the my machines at work in order to cut aluminum that would work for the CNC that I'm building now. And so I ordered the extrusions late November, and it took until mid-January, late January for them to come in. And I've kind of been trying to savor them in a way, because I got them in and I didn't want to just build everything all at once, mainly because with this CNC project, I'm just extending it over the year, mainly because I don't want to just drop all the money all at once. I kind of have to build up my toy fund in order to build this CNC out. So I've been trying to go fairly slow at building everything. On top of that, we've had guests on the podcast and things like that. So I've had these extrusions for a few weeks now, and last weekend I finally built up the whole frame of the CNC, which, gosh, I use mainly 40-40 style, 40-40 millimeter style and 40-80 style 80-20 extrusions. The 40-80 extrusions were for the top, basically the bed of the CNC, and then I use 40-40 for all the legs and the gussets and the 45s and things like that. And it was all bolted together with brackets that I was luckily able to cut on our CNC at work, which when I first started looking at the design for this CNC, the original design came from a Fusion 360 design that I had in my catalog, but I didn't have it was just the frame, not the frame, sorry, the bed of the CNC, not the actual frame. Once you start adding up all the extra frame elements and the hardware and the brackets especially, the price goes through the roof. A lot of times you don't necessarily consider how much just the table costs, and it can add up really fast.
Fasteners and brackets are, yeah, they add fast because the Chevy Express is the first project I'm actually going to keep track of all that, and I'm really scared.
Oh geez, yeah.
Because instead of like brackets and fasteners, usually it's like if I have to make a hose, okay, a pressure hose. The thing is, a pressure hose, the hose itself is like $30 for the material for the hose, plus the hose ends. And hose ends are like $15 a piece.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the fitting that it screws into, because you have to usually adapt like whatever weird crap that GM used. Like it's going to be some metric thing. And you need to adapt it to like an AN style fitting so you can make your hose. So yeah, it's like I'm going to actually keep track of all that with this build and just see how much loss is there in your accounting when you don't calculate that stuff.
Oh, yeah, it's a bit scary that, like, I'm looking at my bill of materials. I've been keeping some rough bill of materials for this build, and I'm looking right now at saying I've got 42 brackets on it. And if you go search for brackets on like Amazon, or if you go directly to 80-20, which is going to be the most expensive, you can easily spend $12-15 a bracket. And on top of that, each one of those brackets has 6 to 8 screws, or bolts, and then you have the T-nuts that go inside of that. It adds up incredibly fast. So I was lucky that I was able to design and cut my own brackets. So basically all 42 of those were effectively free for me because we had excess aluminum that was just scrapped, and so I just cut those into the brackets. Now the fasteners were not, and whenever I did my big fastener buy for this thing, that's the one where like of course you in your head you add up like, oh, these are my linear rails and these are my extrusions and these are all, and this is the cost of this. Oh man, this thing is going to be great. And then you don't realize that you have $450 worth of screws to buy, like it just
To put all those rails onto the 8020.
yeah, like it adds up really fast, and some of the stuff I did buy from Nick Master, which yes, that's the expensive route, but that's also like the easy route. Like you just click it, you get what you want, you get, and that's there. But and at the end of the day, I've somewhere in the order of 600 fasteners on this thing for all the pieces, all the brackets, all the whatnot. So yeah, all that to be said, last weekend I was actually able to devote the time to finishing everything. So I've got the whole table built, I've got everything thrown together, and I've got the gantry mounted up on the CNC. All the linear rails are there for both the X and the Y axis, and the Z axis is effectively complete. But that's about where I'm at right now. So I just have I have a big table sitting in my basement. The next steps for the CNC is to get the drive electronics and to get the ball screws. Well, mainly it's the ball screws, because I have the ball screw for the Z axis, which is just a 300 millimeter short guy. The other ball screws are my X and Y axis, which the X axis I'm doing a dual drive because the gantry is pretty damn heavy. I don't want this thing to have any odd flex in it, so I'm going dual drive on that.
You don't want any R in your XYZ.
Yeah, I don't want this to accidentally turn into a fourth axis CNC. It needs to be just a regular 3-axis. So 2,000 millimeter ball screws, and so I'm going with the SFU 2010 ball screws, and mainly that's frankly because I don't want to spend a gazillion dollars.
You got to educate me on what that means, though.
2010, it means 20 millimeter diameter, and the 10 means 10 millimeter pitch. So one rotation means that the ball screw advances by 10 millimeters, which if you connect that to a standard stepper motor that has 200 pulses per rotation, divide 10 millimeters by 200, it ends up being about just a hair under 0.02 of an inch per pulse at one microstep, basic. And these are all like super ideal numbers, of course. Like that's not including any kind of error in your stepping, and it's also not including any microstepping.
Or the
so I wanted the 10 millimeter
bearing.
Yeah, well, and that's just the thing. So I designed all of this around like what I need it to do and what I have to spend on it. And on top of that, availability of things. Like you can, when it comes to things like ball screws and linear motion, the sky's the limit in terms of how much you want to spend on it and like what accuracy grades you can get. But the thing is, like, if you're just trying to get simple parts that are readily available off the shelf, you're pretty much guaranteed to get the low grade stuff. And so when I was originally designing this machine, I'm asking myself, okay, so for this price, can I actually accept the low grade? Will that be problematic in my end cuts? And so most of the grades that you can get from just like eBay, Amazon, that kind of stuff ends up being your C7 grade ball screws, which if I remember right, that's 50 micrometers per 300 millimeters, which in freedom units, that's 0.02 of an inch in just a little under 12 inches of allowance of error. So, that's not terrible, right? I think that's totally reasonable. And I'm cutting wood at the same time. Like, 0.02 of an inch is fine. So I realize that the C7 grade is more than good enough for what I'm trying to do with everything. So luckily I can buy the inexpensive stuff and just deal with the whatever kind of inaccuracies I get. On top of that, if I really want to get into it, my software that I'm using, Mach 3, has a ball screw, what do they call it? Characterizing mode, where you can step it, measure the offset, and it'll identify errors throughout the entire length of the ball screw, so it can adjust itself. It can basically have nonlinear travel throughout the entire machine. I don't know if I even care about doing that. Just the act of measuring it might introduce more error than.
Yeah, because how do you measure it? That's what I was
How do you
thinking.
measure that? Right. It ends up being an exercise in like how good are you at measurement. Are you good enough at measuring 2,000th across 12 inches? That's actually pretty hard to do. So, yeah, I don't know if I would even care about doing that. And on top of that, my whole goal is I want to build the machine, see how accurate it is, and then address that effectively. Yeah, these machines are actually really difficult to, in my opinion, they're difficult to predict beforehand. In terms of if you're trying to save money. If you're not trying to save money and you're just willing to throw money and get the best stuff, then you can spend the time calculating and get every bit of resolution that you want. But for me, I'm not trying to spend all of the money that I have on this. So effectively, I'm going with the C7 grade for the SFU 2010 ball screws, and I chose 2,000 millimeter because I'm going with a 5 foot by 5 foot bed, which there's arguments about if that's a good ball screw or not. When you're at 20 millimeter diameter, that's pretty low for 2 meter travel.
Mm-hmm.
And you start to get into problems with ball screw whip.
Yeah, when it wobbles around.
Where it wobbles around, yeah, like a jump rope pulled taut, and then sinusoidal motion from it rotating. And so I ran a handful of calculators on 2,000 millimeter ball screw whip, and I think the critical speed at which my steppers can run is 600 RPM, which is pretty fast already for a stepper motor. And that equates to somewhere in the order of 4 inches a second worth of travel motion, which is far beyond what I need the machine to cut at. In fact, I think in general, my target for maximum cutting speed is half that. So I can use 4 inches a second as kind of my maximum rapid speed, which in an ideal world, I would like twice that to be able to have the machine zip around the table, but I can deal with it being a little bit slower on its rapids. It's the cut speed that really matters, which 120 inches a minute is what I'm really shooting for, which is 2 inches a second.
So a good exercise. This is what I started doing in my projects, and so like let's say you wanted to hit that 8 inches a second rapid speed. So how big of a ball screw would you have to go, and what would the price difference be?
That's exactly it. Like on the larger machines, some people opt to go with 25 millimeter or even 35 millimeter ball screws, but the price difference and the availability at that length, it's orders of magnitude difference. So that's why when I was originally designing, it was like, okay, the inexpensive stuff, can it do the job? And it can. What are the concessions I have to make? And it's top speed kind of stuff, and perhaps a little bit of accuracy. Can I live with that? I think so. Obviously, I can. I'm going forward with it.
You already have the parts.
I already, I've
already made that decision.
Yeah, I'm fully committed on this. And on top of that, the critical speed may not be exactly 600. It might be 800. I have to find out. There's a lot of factors that
like the harmonics of your machine.
Yeah, exactly. So whenever I get it, I'll find out what its top speed is before, like when it starts to whip itself to insanity, and then back off like 10% and say that's my maximum speed. Maybe 20%. I don't know. Regardless, the main thing that rapids are useful for is if you're doing lots of production and you need to be able to zip through a ton of stuff.
Zip through
That's
around
not the intent
cuts.
of these. Yeah, that is not the intent of these machines at all. Like, if I was doing 2 programs a day on this machine, I would be ecstatic. Let's put it that way. So I don't need it to have ridiculously fast rapids. I had a machine at work where rapids did matter. Like the difference between one rapid speed and another could mean, 20 products the next day ready for assemblers to build. Yeah, I was sweating rapid speeds on those machines, but on this one, not really. And on top of that, with the how much this machine costs, if I needed more, I would just build a second machine. Like that doubles my rapid speeds instantaneously.
So actually, the price difference to get that rapid speed is less than another one of these.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Okay, yeah. So that's a good. See that those are good exercises to do when you're doing engineering work.
Yeah. Easily. Let's put it that way. I could, yeah. So, at that point, all you need is square feet in your location to increase production.
Yeah.
So if I had 2 of these machines and I was cranking out, 5 to 10 units a day between the 2 machines, which should be fairly easy. I mean, I'd be sitting well. Let's just put it that way.
Your entire. You could probably not assemble them fast enough. What's coming off the machine.
Oh, not at all. Yeah, absolutely not. Yeah, one person running 2 machines would require 5 to 10 people downstream to handle what's coming off the machines. Yeah. So let's put it this way: these machines are not a bottleneck in the process. They're just more of consistency and reliability for things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so the next step, I need to get all the drive electronics. I need to get all the steppers for it. I opted to go with hybrid stepper motors as opposed to just standard Joe Schmo stepper motors. That does incur extra cost, but I like what hybrid stepper motors have to offer because they're closed loop. They can offer you issues with, or not issues. They can prevent issues with losing steps, and they basically ensure that you get to the place where you want to go to. They're like the best of, not the best. They're a good medium in between just open loop, stepper motor go, and servo motors, which is lots of money. So,
yeah.
And there's just no need for a machine like this to have servo motors. I don't need consistent torque at all RPMs on this thing because I'm running fairly slow. That's why I chose the 10 millimeter pitch on my long ball screws as opposed to the 5 millimeter pitch. It just kind of works out at the RPMs I'm going to run it at. I think for the most part, I'm going to be running at 300 or less RPM for the stepper motors, which should be totally fine. So yeah, in the next coming months, I'm going to figure that out and figure out how I'm going to build the electronics cabinet. I kind of want to lay that all out and figure out. Let's just put it this way. I've thought about it, but I haven't done any more work on that. Like, I know the drives and the power supplies and things like that, but
you know the guts that need to go in it, but you don't know how you want to assemble the guts.
And I don't know exactly how I want to do all the connectors for it. I don't know how I want to run cabling for it yet. I have ideas about not running E-chain like everyone does across it, and instead running my cabling up to the ceiling and having it extend down on an umbilical.
Okay.
That goes to the... I like that idea a little bit better because I can do dust collection and my cabling all in one bundle down to the spindle and not have to do a bunch of E-chain stuff across the gantry and the X and Y axis. I don't know. I haven't decided on that yet. But milestone, effectively, this all boils down to is I've got a frame sitting in my basement and it's just staring at me waiting for all the rest of the stuff to get done. The goal is to have this thing moving by the summer, basically.
So Metacolin in our chat says, you should look into epoxy granite. It's a great way to increase the mass and dampen vibration.
Well, okay. And it's funny you mentioned that. I've watched a bunch of YouTube videos on guys doing granite tables for their CNCs, and it's awesome. The problem with it is this table is like 80 inches by 80 inches. If I were to pour a granite table like that, the table would be a few thousand pounds, and I've got a floating basement here that's just particle board. I'm not going to put like 3,000 pounds worth of stone on top of it. It would just go through the floor.
It punch 40 millimeter by 40 millimeter holes all over your floor.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it would just crack right through the floor. So the all said and done, I got to remember I'm cutting wood with this. I'm not cutting any kind of metal. I don't need that kind of rigidity. Now, if I were to build like a bench top, a small CNC, I would absolutely consider the epoxy sand route, because you can make an unbelievably stiff and rigid machine with that. And from what I've seen online or just in the YouTube videos I've watched, it doesn't look, let's put it this way, other people have done the hard work of testing out mixtures of sand and epoxy and stuff like that. And they just say, get this, mix this up, and pour it in. Obviously, it's not that easy, but
Sounds like it's that
if I
easy.
were to make a small benchtop one, I would totally
It's
consider
like baking a cake at that point. It's even easier than baking cake because you don't even have the oven part.
Yeah. But if you get it wrong, then
Oh. Could you imagine having to chip all that out?
you would basically start over. Yeah. You know, I'll post up some pictures of the frame. We have some in our Slack channel. So
Yeah,
go
there's
check
some
it
up
out.
already. And Steven was working over the weekend. I guess I could post pictures of the new truck, but it's
Do it.
It's a FedEx truck without a FedEx logo on it.
Okay, so you need to drive up here, and then we move my CNC into the back of the truck and take pictures of that.
There you go. So Metacolin did the math. 80 inches by 80 inches by 2 inches would weigh 1,300 pounds.
And I would pour a lot more than 2 inches. So yeah, it would go straight through my basement floor. I wouldn't want to put that kind of weight in here.
Okay, so let's wrap this up.
All right, that was the Macrofab Engineering Podcast. We were your host, Stephen Craig.
And Parker Dillman.
Take it easy.
Later, everyone. Thank you, yes, you, our listener, for downloading our podcast. I'm using my normal voice now because I don't remember what voice I used at the beginning. If you have a cool idea, project, or topic, or have suggestions for Steven's CNC machine, or you've built a RV camper tow rig in the past and have suggestions for me, let us know. Tweet us at MacFab, at Longhorn Engineer, that's me, at AnalogENG, which is Steven, or email us at podcast@macfab.com. Also, check out our Slack channel. You can find it at macfab.com/Slack. So one thing I've been looking at for the truck is getting a, you know how like modern SUVs and stuff have like those 360 cameras? Have you ever driven a car that's got one of those?
I have one, yeah.
Oh, you do? Fancy. Well, I'm going to install like the utility truck version of one.
Nice.
Because that's actually one thing I noticed was like I'm like driving down the freeway, and I guess it comes with like just driving it enough and figuring out where cars are in relationship to you. But I'm like, if I also have 15 feet of trailer behind me, like you won't even be able to see the trailer behind you.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I'm going to set up a nice camera system so I can actually like see what is going on. And some of the stuff, basically it's for like semi trucks, the system I'm looking at. And like, it does like a 3D rendering of like your truck, and you can like see through your truck. It's really cool stuff that they have now.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to putting that in, because it already has a camera system, but it's garbage. That was installed by the upfitter that did the box.
Yeah.
It works. It's just not the best. The cool thing is it's got ultrasonic sensors on it, like a backup sensors, but they're at. So it's got like 4 on the bumper at the bottom, but then it's got 2 on the top of the box. So I was backing up in my driveway. It was the first time it went off. I'm like, what the fuck is that? So I'm like looking around, and I look in the monitor, and it's saying like top left, there's an object there. And I'm like, what the fuck is it talking about? I'm like in my driveway.
Was it a tree branch or something?
It was a tree branch that was no bigger than like a pencil.
Oh wow.
And it picked that up. So I'm like, it's pretty sensitive.
That's cool.
And of course, I just like, screw it. I'm just going to drive through the pencil branch, and like the tree just went out of the way. I was really shocked that it actually picked that up. But so the system I'm looking at also has that too, because it's like all integrated into like one system.
Crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool tech out there for like truckers. Because I'm kind of going that route. Because like what I've noticed is like the truckers actually have like the tech that works, and the RVs have like the really expensive stuff that only kind of works.
Yeah.
I guess they assume if you're buying a big RV, you have a lot of money to spend. So like the cameras will be like obvious there's a camera there. It won't be like hidden by panel work or anything. But it's like it's a box truck. It's not winning any beauty pageants to begin with.
No.
Thing hauls ass though when it's empty. It's got like 460 horsepower and 401 horsepower and 460 torque.
Damn.
Yeah. 6.6 liter gas engine.
Yeah.
Big ass gas engine in it. 6-speed automatic. Shift's great.
Oh, it should. It's brand new.
It's just because I took it on a test drive, and I took it on about a 10-mile test drive, and I got on like a back road, and I started doing 0 to 60s.
Okay.
And I'm like, it unloaded.
Get up and go?
It actually goes 0 to 60 faster than my red Jeep does.
Wow.
But the red Jeep's got 190 horsepower and weighs only 2,000 less pounds.
Yeah.
But you put them right next to each other, and like the Jeep is so much smaller, but it's just dense. It's all that weld bead, man.
That's all. Yeah. all that crap that you added to it.
Yeah. That Jeep is dense because it's like 4,000 something pounds.
That's a lot for a car like that.
Yeah. And like that truck is like 7,000.
Yeah.
And you look at it, you're like, how's this thing only weigh 7,000? It's like, well, the box is aluminum, basically. Aluminum composite material with a steel frame. Dude,
I tried lifting the CNC.
Yeah.
This thing is a lot heavier than I was expecting it to be. Like,
You start
getting the
squatting.
gantry on, I did it by myself. I should have asked Lauren for help. I was like, trying to get it onto the thing. Bet you it weighs somewhere between 200 and 300 pounds.
Oh yeah,
which is not bad for how big it is, you know.
Yeah,
but
that's on the verge of like hurting yourself when you're moving it.
Yeah.
Especially since it's
now
not...
that it's all together, that like scooting. I bet you, if you were to split apart the aluminum and the fasteners, it would weigh the same. Like
half the weights in steel fasteners.
Yeah, probably.
Did you use steel or stainless fasteners?
Steel.
Steel. Okay, that's what I thought.
So for anything that connects to anything that threads into the aluminum, I use 818 stainless.
Okay.
Anything that is just like T-nuts on the frame, I just use like black oxide crap, you know?
Yeah. No, that's what you should do.
Yeah. I don't want it to galvanically do bad things.
Yeah. Well, stainless and aluminum is the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
Did you end up putting any anti-CZ goop?
Not yet, no.
Okay.
My thought is I built the entire frame to make sure it goes together,
Okay.
and it's really easy to take all of those parts apart, and I can do them one at a time without taking the whole thing back apart.
Yeah.
So I could pull them out, put some on, and then put it back in.
Because it will galvanically corrode eventually, no matter what you do.
Yeah. I mean, even with anodizing, it'll just take a long time.
Yeah. Even with anti-seize, it just will take 30 years.
Which you never know. I might be dead by then.
Yeah, we might all be dead.
Yeah. Yeah, with the aliens coming in, right?
Yeah, with those all their spy balloons.
Oh, they're alien spy balloons. Yeah.
So I know a lot of people. I already got the files. So this is the last thing. I know a lot of people are making fun of was the F-20. What was the one that killed the space balloon? The F-22.
Remember the Raptor?
Yeah. It's like it's.
Well, I mean, they shot it to a
no
Sidewinder and
F-35.
missed.
It's like F-35.
No, they didn't. They didn't send an F-35 at it, did they? I don't think they did.
It missed.
The first Sidewinder missed. That's $400,000. Pew.
But it's something like the highest altitude. Like a lot of people were making fun of, because like you look at the predecessors to whatever that plane was. Like, first confirmed kill was like a MiG, and like,
yeah,
and this one's like first confirmed kill is a balloon. But
F-22 is what they sent, not the
okay,
35.
F-22. But to credit it, it's technically the highest altitude kill ever. It's a space
takedown
balloon.
is what they've been using.
Oh, takedown. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So it's the highest altitude takedown ever.
Yeah, I mean the one that one of the ones last weekend was like 50,000 feet or something like that. Just, I mean, that's up there.
Yeah. Scott Manley did a couple of videos about this stuff, but his recent one was like, what does it take to like have a plane fly really high, and like all the design characteristics that you have to think about.
Oh, let me see if I can find this. Yeah, this guy. Okay, so this I can't post links in there, but I'll post it to you, Parker.
Okay.
I'll post it in the Squadcast chat.
Yeah, I could share it then.
This this is a video from Air Zoo or whatever. It's 25 minutes long with one of the original engineers of
Hi, my name is Arnie Gunn.
SR-71 Blackbird.
Oh yeah, I saw this one.
Yeah, and he talks about like the engineering of the engines, and oh my god, it is so worth, and it's just the guy talking in front of the engine for 25 minutes, and I loved every second of it. It's so good.
Yeah. This video is great.
Yeah.
My favorite, I know there's a lot of lore and mystery around the SR-71 Blackbird because of how insane the engineering and specs of it is. Is we don't even officially know how fast it ever goes. Like, so, because Scott Manley was actually in a recent video was talking about like its rated speed is Mach 3. Okay.
Isn't that 2,100 miles an hour or something like that?
Something like that. So that's its rated speed. Okay, like it's like engineered speed. So one time, like someone was being like, actually someone like the Soviets like got a lock on him, and so he like punched it, and he went like 3.5 before backing off, and it was fine, in quotes.
Yeah.
So who knows how actually fast that thing goes?
It's so cool.
I think with, because basically what happens is, one, it's like the shell can rip apart, and two is just the internals of the engines handling the heat load. It's like that's the two major designs you run up on with this.
The crazy thing is the thermal expansion of all of the external plates. How the plane, this is goofy the way of saying it, but it's loose when it's at room temperature on the ground, and then it gets into the air and it seals up because it gets hot and all the gaps close. So a lot of the plane leaks until it's at speed, which is ridiculous. So go watch that video. It's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, I gotta go make a steak for Valentine's Day.
Ooh. Oh yeah. Go have fun.
Later.
Later, everyone.